Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to do currency exchange on the black market. Let's get started. Hi guys, I'm Marcus from StreetSmartTraveler.com, and in this video I'm going to share with you how to do currency exchange on the black market. But first, I want to give you a disclaimer. This video is purely for informational purposes and is not in any way meant to encourage you to break the law. So I accept no liability if you suffer any loss, arrest, legal punishment, or worse. Okay? So let's just get that out of the way. Alright, so let's see. Okay, so as much as possible you want to avoid breaking the law, but there are in some circumstances, in certain countries you just are forced to do it. And one example is exchanging money on the black market. So the example I'm going to use is China, because China restricts their foreign currency. So it's easy for you to change dollars into Chinese yuan renminbi, but it's really hard to change it back. And this can be a problem if you worked in China for a while and you're planning to leave. How do you change all of that Chinese yuan renminbi into US dollars that you can take home? Okay, so I'm gonna share a story from my own experience. I was working in China and I was earning some good money, but it was all in Chinese yuan renminbi. And I had to take a trip outside of the country. And so I didn't think ahead. I booked the ticket without thinking about the money situation. And then later I realized, oh man, I'm stuck with all of this from Chinese renminbi and there's no way for me to change it. So what I did was I reached out to a Chinese friend of mine. She was a Chinese businesswoman who sold baby clothes overseas. So she had a lot of clients in Europe and Singapore and places like that. So I thought that she might know a good person to exchange money with. And luckily she did. So to fast forward, suddenly it was the most shady situation ever. It was like, okay, you need to go to this hotel, wait in the lobby, wait at this time, and then wait for this guy to show up. It was just really scary. So that's the situation I want to avoid putting you guys in. So that's why I'm going to share these tips with you to help you avoid that. So there I was in a hotel room. I was really worried, am I going to get like attacked or robbed or maybe murdered? And it's not a good place to be. So I'll tell you how that story ended near the end of this video. Okay, so one main principle I want to get across, if you don't remember anything else in this video, just remember this, is that once you step outside the law, outside the protection of the law, your only protection is your relationships. So definitely, like in China they call it guanxi, which is roughly translated as networking, but it's much more complicated than that. It's more of a unspoken system of like keeping track of favors, both owed and given. And so you really want to build up the good guanxi with the people around you, both with Westerners and also with local Chinese, to help you smoothen out through the rough problems you might encounter. So there's three levels of people that can help you, three kinds of people that can help you to exchange money on the black market. So the ideal first choice should always be a fellow expat from the same country as you, who has a lot more experience and just knows their way around. So an example I can give is when I was working in Shanghai, I became friends with an English guy who had lived in Shanghai for a couple of years. And luckily, when I needed to exchange money, so this is another situation where it happened, he was able to put me in touch with his Chinese boss, who was a businessman who had connections. So that would never have happened if I hadn't built a relationship with him first and became his friend. Now, you shouldn't just become a friend and become friends with people just because you plan to use them. But in this case, it's one of those side benefits that can happen. So he put me in touch with his Chinese boss, and it was a lot less stressful than the first story that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. What happened was, you just go to the businessman's office, he sits down with you, you give the money, the cash, to the Chinese yuan renminbi to his secretary. The secretary goes off, she makes the exchange. You never see the actual money exchange guy, and then she brings back the US dollars. And then you just count it to your satisfaction. Easy peasy. That is the ideal situation to be in, but you need the guanxi to get there. So your number one choice is always to ask a fellow expat from the same country as you. Now the number two choice, which is what I talked about in the beginning of that story, is where you try to ask a local friend that you trust. So ideally it should be someone that you've known for at least a couple months, not just someone that you met only last week. So in my case, that Chinese businesswoman that I'd met, I'd known her for at least around 6 months before asking her to put me in touch with a money exchanger. So definitely make friends with people, learn the language, and those local friends could really help you out if you need it. Alright, now the third and probably maybe the least desirable but the most convenient, if you don't have any local friends in China or whatever country you're in and you're just visiting on a business trip, then I would say to actually go to the hotel concierge, because hotel concierges they're just like the fixers of the travel world. They can get you whatever you need, whether legal or kind of more gray area. So I would ask definitely a hotel concierge if you don't have any relationship with an expat or with a local. Okay, so those are the three types of people that you can contact if you need help finding a good money exchanger. Alright, so let's see. Okay, the next thing is, if you're gonna meet with a money exchanger, definitely do it in a public place. Don't just do it on the street. And actually, the people on the street are more likely to rip you off anyway. So it's better to do it at least in a shop or inside a hotel, and then you'll be much safer. And then also what I would recommend doing is bringing some genuine currency that you already have in your possession. So in my case, I brought a genuine $100 bill from America that I could use to compare. So if you bring a genuine piece of currency, it'll help you compare the bills that are given to you by the money exchanger, and then you can verify at least whether they're counterfeit or not. Because once you step into the gray area, everything is suspect and you have to check everything. Okay, and also when it comes to exchanging money, the bigger denominations will get better rates. So $100 bills are by far the most desirable, $100 US bills. And then after that, the exchange rate gets slightly worse if you get smaller and smaller bills. And in some cases, if it's a really small bill, like a $1 bill, you may not even get anyone willing to exchange money with you. So definitely bring $100 US bills. Let's see. Okay, and also any good money exchanger, they'll expect you to count their currency before you change it. So definitely always count first before you hand over any of your money. And usually this won't be a big problem if it's an honest money exchanger to begin with. They'll expect you to count the money. So once you count the money to your satisfaction, then you hand over your money. Now this is the most important thing. Once you've counted your money and it's in your hand, do not ever let the money changer touch that cash again, because they're like magicians or pickpockets where even if they say, oh, they need to recount it again, that's just an excuse. They just want to snatch back some bills from you. So don't fall for that. Okay. Let me see. Do I have any more tips for you? Yeah, I think that's all I have for today. So if you have questions about traveling or living abroad, you can email me using the contact form on my website at www.streetsmarttraveler.com/contact. So who knows, your question may be featured in a future video. And of course, if you want regular updates, you can join my mailing list at www.streetsmarttraveler.com. Just enter your email address and you'll start receiving regular updates whenever I put out a new episode. Okay, so now let me finish that story that I started at the beginning. So I was waiting at the hotel lobby with my Chinese businesswoman friend, and this was not a nice hotel either. This was more like a motel, kind of down and dirty. And so as I was waiting with that girl, kind of wondering whether I was going to get robbed or killed, this old man that looks like a homeless bum walks in with a Louis Vuitton bag. Now, China being China, it could be in a real bag or maybe not. But anyway, the guy came over, he opened the bag, there was every kind of currency imaginable in that bag. He had Chinese yuan, he had US dollars, he had euros, Singapore dollars, Hong Kong dollars, he had a little bit of everything. And he barely said anything. He just sort of made a face which do you want? And I was like, I want US dollars. And he's like, okay. So he counted a bunch of US dollars and gave it to me. I recounted it. Then I took out the $100 bill that I brought to compare. And if they were counterfeit, they were really good counterfeits. So I just accepted the money, and then he just kind of nodded and closed up his bag and left. And that was my first time exchanging money on the black market. So hopefully things go well with you, and best of luck. Alright, I'm Marcus, and I'll talk to you soon.